Red Bull have been on edge since the beginning of last week as rumors about a potential budget breach came to the surface just before the Singapore Grand Prix. And as we are now only a few hours away from the FIA issuing certifications of compliance with the 2021 regulations to teams that stayed within the budget, new updates regarding the situation have surfaced. So, is Red Bull officially in trouble? Or was the infringement blown way out of proportion to distract the team in Singapore? Well, let's talk about it then. But before we do, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our latest uploads. Now that's out of the way, let's get started. According to a report by the news site The Daily Mail, Red Bull was only found of a minor breach of the 2021 regulations. The team only spent £1 million over the budget cap, a complete opposite of what they were accused of by their rival teams, who had said that they were guilty of overspending by £10 million. As we all can remember, the budget cap was first introduced last season in hopes of closing down the gap between financially well-off teams and those that are working on a tighter budget. With the introduction of the budget cap came regulations that deemed a breach of less than 5% as a minor breach, while anything above 5% is considered a major breach. Now, reports of Red Bull only going over the budget by £1 million would have them fall within the minor breach category. While many may see this as a breach nonetheless, the fact that it is a minor breach means that there will be a high chance that Red Bull's Max Verstappen will get to retain his 2021 title. But then again, nothing is still 100% certain until the FIA distributes its certificates of compliance. Throughout the past week, Red Bull's team boss Christian Horner has been defending his team non-stop, and has consistently insisted that the team stayed below the £114 million budget. And as always, Toto Wolff would always have something to say about Red Bull and Christian's situation. It's funny Christian says that, because it's been weeks and months they're being investigated, so maybe he doesn't speak to his CFO, he told Sky Sports. As a matter of fact, all of us have been investigated diligently. As far as we understand, there's a team in minor breach, which is more procedural, and another team that is fundamentally massively over, and that is still being looked after. So that's an open secret in the paddock. I don't know how many tens of millions we had to restructure and reprocess in order to be below the cap, and if someone has not been doing that, or pushing the boundaries, every million you don't spend is a massive disadvantage. With the budget cap in place, big teams like Ferrari, Red Bull, and Mercedes have had to make a lot of changes to stay within the budget cap. So any team that has spent even a little over the cap can obtain a performance advantage over their competitors, both in the current and following seasons to come. Which is how Ferrari's racing director Laurent Mekies believes that the FIA chooses to handle this situation will dictate the next few seasons of F1. It is a very vital test for the cost cap, said Mekies, and as we said, if we don't pass the test, it's probably game over, because the implications are huge. If you think about the level of constraints that have been imposed on the big teams, then you realize how much lap time there is going to be if you don't strictly enforce them. We're massively constrained, and therefore any million, any leak you allow in the budget cap is going to turn into a few tenths of seconds on the car. Mekies would also add that it is crucial that every team on the grid have the same understanding of how the rules are being applied. Should we talk about penalties now? Probably not, said Mekies. I know it's probably what the people in the grandstands want to see, and we respect that. But in fact, we are much earlier in the process than that. Probably an even more key aspect of it is there a breach? Do we agree on the entity of the breach and that, as a result, confirm the rule everybody is obeying? So I think what is very much crucial now is that the FIA fully enforce rules as they are written now, and then after the penalties are a different matter. Mekies would then share how he and Ferrari want the budget to be applied. At least for us, there is no reason on what is the interpretation of what we have done, because it's been continuous discussions with the FIA, and I think that's how the process is intended to be. Then after, of course, you have that final check that we're talking about now, that we're all waiting for. But in fact, we see very little room for surprises in the way that we have been discussing non-stop in the last 2 years with them. McLaren's team boss Andreas Seidel would also chime in about the situation. Seidel would talk about all the sacrifices the team had also had to make in order to meet the budget cap. We have an obligation to our people, from the FIA side and from our side, because even for a team like us, the introduction of the cost cap meant that we had to put some really serious measures in place which were affecting our people, said Seidel. We had to make people redundant as well. We had to ask our people to accept pay cuts or pay freezes, which was very serious. At the same time, there was, especially from 2 teams, an incredibly aggressive hiring still ongoing, throwing incredible salaries on the table and offering unbelievable company benefit packages, where we're all wondering how this is possible in this new world of Formula One, and our people are obviously challenging us if we do everything right on our side. That's why we simply welcome clarity on this, because in the end we will find out that if maybe we've missed something on our side, or if there actually were breaches ongoing, and we have a clear explanation why certain teams can do certain things which we were simply not in a position to offer our people. But as much as Ferrari and McLaren have been uncharacteristically vocal about the situation, everyone who has followed the sport for a long time knows that this battle is between Christian Horner and Toto Wolff. And if you've watched the latest season of Drive to Survive, everything that is happening before us looks like the continuation to the controversial ending of the 2021 season, where Red Bull's Max Verstappen snatched Lewis Hamilton's 8th title at the very last race of the season. This has led former Red Bull driver Mark Webber to believe that those scars from Abu Dhabi have not healed. When asked about Horner versus Wolff all over again, Webber would reply with, "Well, is it Abu Dhabi sort of popping back up again? We know what was at stake last year, don't we? And the fine margins by which that championship was won and lost. So yes, opposition teams are getting on their horse and having a red-hot crack that there might be something here. The FIA, it's up to them now to back up Christian's comments because he says they're barking up the wrong tree." Webber would then go on to defend his former team by saying, "It's pure speculation at the moment," Webber affirmed. There have been some leaks around the finances of how certain teams control their budget cap last year in 21, which was the first season, £114 million budget they had to stick to, which is obviously a canter for most of these teams. Obviously, it's a very tight budget, so everyone's trying to stick to that number. Obviously, there's a competitive advantage if you go over, and that's what seems to be in question here with 2 teams, particularly Red Bull. Mr. Horner isn't happy. It's a big topic because it has an influence on last year, this year, and potentially 23 because cars are designed where you stop where that money was spent. And there you have it, guys. So, will the FIA find something suspicious in Red Bull's finances? Let us know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.